Hey, what's going on? This is Billy Newman, and you're listening to the Billy Newman Photo Podcast. I am out in my truck. I'm recording from the mobile studio, just my laptop and a microphone. And I sit out here with in an empty field next to some house flies, but there's no house around. Are they field flies? I wonder. But today I'm sitting out here and I'm thinking about a couple of the photo things that I've been trying to put up. I just posted one earlier. It was a backpacking photo that I'd taken when we were out in the Wallowa Mountains up in the Eagle Cap Wilderness. And that's a really cool spot. I've talked about it a ton of times before, but it really is a special location as it goes, even for Oregon, which is really blessed with a lot of very nice, very approachable, photographable locations. But the Wallowa Mountains have always been something that stood out to me as one of my favorites. And I've heard that that region has a lot of stuff like that. Like as you move further over into Idaho, into the Sawtooth Mountains, into Hell's Canyon, there's a lot of really peculiar spectacles to go see in that area. And it's really interesting how it's laid out. I appreciate it. And I loved kind of getting to go through the whole area. But the Wallowa Mountains specifically have something kind of special to them, especially when you get up into the Alpine area and you get away from people. Even as it goes, when you get to Joseph, you're significantly away from people. But as you leave and kind of push in further into the Eagle Cap Wilderness, the number of people just drops down to less than a dozen by far. And even less than that, as you move into the more remote areas. It's sort of interesting how there's a threshold of where people are. Like if it's under so many miles of a hike, there's going to be a lot more people there. It's just sort of evolution, maybe. It's just natural selection, right? It's where people would naturally select their interests to be closer to the main road than further and more competitive at a farther distance. And so it's interesting. Like if you go to a lake that's 6 miles in, there's going to be more people there than if you went to the lake that was 9 miles in. It's just people kind of pull out first, or they pull out to the route or the trail. It's going to not be as much, it seems like. But also on top of that, really, and I blame myself for this specifically, it's way busier now. This decade, just generally, it seems like the REI or the whole outdoor industry, this whole outdoor media industry, outdoor adventure industry, it just seems like it's double or it's 20% up from what it was a decade ago, if that might make sense. And the reason that I would say that is it just seems like there were so many more people filling the parking lot of the area than there were in the years past. And the reason that I say that, and the reason why that's qualified information maybe, is it's after Labor Day now. What the trick used to be when I was doing a lot of the photo trips that I would do as I kind of travel east from here and kind of do a big loop in the fall to take photos is after Labor Day. What you really notice is a lot of these state parks, a lot of the managed locations where there's a park host or something like that, those all get shut down for the winter. It's closed off unless it's like a bigger, higher volume national park kind of area. But all of these remote locations like the Wallowa Wilderness or the Alvord Desert that we went to, these were places where there would likely be no people, especially no people if it were off hours, off season sort of stuff, sort of visitation. But what we noticed when we were there is that the parking lot was filled up. Like, it was 50, 60, 70, 80 cars deep. They all just kind of park in a line up above the trailhead. And that's, you kind of visually just are impacted by, wow, there must be this many people from all of these cars up in the mountains right now. And in the past, like when I was there in 2011 and then again in 2012 and in 13, there would be no car. Like there was 5 cars in the parking lot. It was me. I pulled up right to the very front. And and even when we went this last time, it was a midweek trip. It wasn't Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And even still with that midweek trip, there was more traffic up there. So we went to Arnold Lake, I believe. And that was an area that was, I think, like 6 miles in. So a little bit of what I was talking about before about natural selection of the hike you're going to go on that day. 6 miles is less of a hike. I think the other one, Ice Lake, is 9 miles. Maybe the other one is 10, 12, 13 miles, so, somewhere in there. But it just kind of progressively goes on from about 6. There's about 1 every 2 miles or so. If you kind of push, you go so many more miles after that. There's this next one. So on and so forth, as you can imagine. But a lot of people go up to this lake for like a lunch day hike, which sounds like a blast, not having to actually carry all the heavy stuff with you or, all the equipment, all the overnight stuff that you'd have to deal with. But it was fine. It was cool. We went up to Arnold Lake. We camped up there for a night, and we did a lot of photo stuff. But it was kind of tough because I think I mentioned on that last podcast where the we were prepared, but the weather would kind of get twisted on us more often than really what I wanted it to. But the weather would kind of spin out on us a little bit. So the first night we were there, it was nice and decent in temperature and weather as we were hiking up to the location where we were going to camp. There's only one other couple camping up there. I think it was like a mom and a daughter team that were they were camped out at a site. And then so we pulled away from them on the lake, and it's just the whole lake to us, which was really cool. It was fun. So we shot around there for a while, but there's rain that picked up. It was probably one of the first rains of the season. Well, at least for me or for us or for that area. But it seemed like it kind of built up over the mountains, like how you see storm systems kind of build up over the mountaintops sometimes. It seemed sort of like it was that, like it was some kind of weather pattern that was about the Wallowas. It seemed like it was nice everywhere else, but it just seemed like it wasn't very nice there. So we camped there for the night. We got through some rain. It was nice the next morning. We took a lot of photos that morning, a lot of photos through the day. We kind of walked around the lake. It was interesting. I guess way back before it was a wilderness area, before whatever kind of legislation went into effect in the 60s. I think, was it the Nixon era? When Nixon had just gotten in, and what was it, like 68, and they pushed for the Wilderness Act or the Wild and Scenic Act, or probably there's a bunch of stuff before that. But from way back, like 100 years ago, like before these regulations existed on what could and couldn't happen in wilderness areas, I guess it was a bot area next to that lake, and they had built like 6 or 7 cabins up there. Like they just cut down wood and built these cabins. So you go up there, and I think they're still owned as private property. It was sort of grandfathered in once the whole wilderness thing was established. There's a lot of those private land facilities that were grandfathered into that system because they had already existed there. So these are all like undeveloped, unmaintained things that I guess you could pay someone to hike up all the way there and then camp there if you'd want to. They seemed a little dilapidated to me, though. I don't know if I'd want to put out some cash for that especially after hiking all day. I might as well just take my tent or hammock or sleeping pad or something, if I'm doing that. But it was cool to go check out, and it was kind of cool to spot something a little different up there. But it was really fun. Honestly, I don't like the cabins, because really what I want to go to the Wallowas for is the wilderness experience, is the getting away from the cabins, the private property, the signs that say you can't go here, someone else owns this sort of thing. I'm trying to get away from that and go to public land, or go to places where I have access, where I get to do things. And so if it's in civilization, like downtown, and I see private property or whatever it might be, or this is ours, it's not yours, I say, all right, fine, that's okay. Because that's the negotiation we've made here in civilization. But when we go way out, when we've hiked in miles and miles under our own discipline and accord to get somewhere to spend time there, and then there's some sign, some indication that we're not supposed to be there, or we're not supposed to be a part of it, or we're not supposed to whatever, we're supposed to respect their private property, and it's a big open field that's a place that everyone gets to hike to, that's just a big lake that's a tourist destination. No, I'm not respecting that rule. I'm going wherever, I'm going to do whatever. That's your business to get a camp host to discipline, not mine. So that might be a lake that I don't go to anymore, or that we won't really hike out to again. I think mostly, photos were fun. It was fine, other than like not really getting the light and the opportunity, running into a storm, all the rest of it. That kind of took away a little bit, but really there's just not as many how do you say, like priority landscape features at that location. There's a pretty lake. It's very nice. It's very alpine looking in in its presentation, but it just didn't really have one of those AAA titles to photograph when you get there. There's not like a lake and then this really cool perspective of a mountain. It's just sort of a big ridge that runs along this glacial lake. Cool, really pretty, beautiful, shouldn't take away from it, but when your goal is just kind of to get to a specific kind of thing and then get a photo in the can, as they'd say in the biz, or when you get to finish it, it's done, it's already locked off, and it's already captured, you got what you want, then you can move on. It just didn't really feel like we got there at our location in the Wallowa Mountains. But it was super fun being there. It was cold at night, though. Man, made mornings bad. That's the thing that sucks about morning photos. At night, you get the sun to heat up the earth all day, and then you get to go out and take photos of it. In the morning, though, it's just been cold the whole time, especially as we move into fall, as we move into winter. Like that cold just really starts to peak, it seems like. Or, we're getting really close to the freeze. I'm sure it was already freezing up there above the alpine level. Like, we were 7,500 feet, something like that. So that's a lot. Or, from coming down here. Oh, man, and the altitude, not altitude sickness, but altitude fatigue. It just drew on me. Marina, too, she really noticed it. But, as you go around, it's like 1 o'clock that next afternoon. You're just trying to have energy to sit and eat lunch, it seemed like. If you really pumped up and you really got to hiking or something, you could struggle through it. But just that native energy that you would have to go do something, it just was really zapped. That might be just from sleeping on rocks for 4 days beforehand and then trying to hike or something like that. But it's weird. I don't know. I remember a couple other times, as you backpack and you climb up an elevation, it just can be really fatiguing. So we made it through it. I posted a photo up to Instagram today. It's hitting Facebook and Twitter and the whatnot this afternoon. I'm also trying to run through and find a good video clip, like a good behind-the-scenes video clip of us kind of walking through or running around up in the Wallowas as we were hiking. And I know I have a bunch of those of us backpacking and trying to put in some work to get to a spot to take some cool photos. So I'll try and put one of those up on YouTube, on Facebook later today. Maybe I should cross-post that to my website. Look at me. And speaking of my website, BillyNewmanPhoto.com. I'm trying to get that one worked out still. I have the front page, the about page, I've been doing some little development on it. This weekend, I tried to do some stuff where I was trying to get, like I was telling y'all about last week, I was really just trying to get my computer in order, which is fine. It's all set up, but I'm trying to do some specific stuff, or trying to integrate software so that it works and talks with its, to each other, so I can get more stuff done. I don't know, production stuff, media stuff, software stuff. It's just dumb trying to troubleshoot little things that were supposed to work. But what I'm trying to do is go through last week, get my computer set up, get my files set up, and then go through, pick out a portfolio of stuff, and then kind of continue the web development that I was doing on the website. So I'm trying to go through and find a good way to build a gallery right now. And I really essentially know most of the photographs that are going to go in there. So I really just need to I need to pick one of those photos today. Then I need to pick another one of those photos tomorrow. Likely, I could probably do just a little better than that. And I mean, likely, why can't I get to 10? I think I know what photos those are. So I'll try and do that. Why not? But I'm going to try and keep working on the Billy Newman photo website. Really, I'm just trying to get some new work on there. Like, that's a big thing about why I've been delaying on the photo portfolios. I'm really trying to rebuild it, or kind of rejigger it for the 2017 time period, to show off some of my best stuff. Because I don't know, it's stuff. It's like some of my favorite photos, reasonably, are still like old, or, like it's my best stuff from 2011 or 12, or, it's like they're still cool photos. It still means something to me. And so I really want to include those. And I'm trying to go through and sort of vet that against some of the newer stuff, or the more modern pieces that I'm putting together. So all that's going good. I've been working with that Capture One software a little bit. There's a few different versions of it, and I really don't know what I'm doing. And I haven't even really watched a YouTube tutorial about what I'm supposed to do in Capture One yet. Most of all, it's fun to try out. It's fun to use. If I didn't have Lightroom available, or if I thought let's say if you're out there and you're using the Photoshop package, the photographer's Adobe package, where you get Photoshop and Lightroom for $10 a month. If I was on any kind of subscription plan for Adobe products, I would totally cut that, and I would buy in to a program like Capture One that was modern, that I just had to buy once and then use and monetize after that. For me, I bought Lightroom, and I'm not going to change over to the Creative Cloud update to that. I think that does not work well at all. And it really kind of, I don't know, it's just always a diminishing return. At some level, it's just another $10 bill. You put enough of those together between Netflix and Adobe and Hulu and everything else, like, it's just a bajillion dollars that you're indebted to every month for these services that really are not worth the total value that you'd end up paying for it. Like Lightroom's an $80 program. If you pay $10 a month for that, and that's primarily what you're using, that would be paid for in 8 months. There's no reason to spend 6 years paying $10 a month for the service to use these photographs, especially if they sell the software still. or especially if there's alternatives that are professional, like Capture One or Affinity or a few of these others that are out there that do photo management stuff for you in a way that wouldn't take constantly a large amount of your budget, your money, or whatever kind of control system it is to get into the Lightroom catalog. That's the thing I don't like about it. But really, Lightroom is the most developed system for that kind of photo editing, and so I'm going to continue using it. Lightroom, Photoshop, it's just what to use at this point, at least. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in Capture One, but I don't know if I could really use it with ease to get to the same level of proficiency in my work that I do with other tools. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I need to try and give it a fair shake, and I need to really try and put into it some time, at least like a run through of a tutorial, or kind of see what's special about it, what works there better than other places. But it's been cool messing around with, and I don't know, I got a couple other ideas, some stuff that'll come up in the future, some stuff I haven't even started working on yet, so why talk about it? And because of that, I think that'll wrap up this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast. You can check out my work at billynewmanphoto.com. You can see all of my photos. Well, a lot. You can see a lot of the photos that I'd want to post, what we're talking about here today. You can check that out on Instagram. That's at Billy Newman. You can see a bunch of other stuff on Twitter and Facebook too. You'll find me under the same name. So thanks a lot for listening to this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast.